So all these, oh, just one second. Blank. So all these people, the workforce, they cost a lot of money. So the workforce size and the salaries, the compensation levels of all these individuals accounts for the largest corporate expense. Now, if you want to retain the workforce size, but you want to reduce the salaries, then you have to go to something which is called outsourcing and insourcing. So outsourcing, sometimes called offshoring, is when the US companies engage in the practice of retaining the services of external software development firms, often based in India. And those firms design, build, test, maintain the software, rather than having the US company hire full-time employees working in the US in the company's offices on American soil. This is an example of a tragic and well-publicized example of outsourcing gone bad. Now, Boeing had a pool of American avionics programmers in the Seattle region, and they were charging each programmer about $75 an hour. Boeing decided to outsource the software development of a component in the Boeing 737 MAX, sorry, to an Indian company called HCL for $13 an hour. And HCL turned around and hired an Indian programmer for $9 an hour. And the software that was produced by this program in HCL, it was so poorly designed, you don't need an engineering degree to realize the flaws. It's just pure, simple logic. But they installed the software on the plane, and two planes crashed. So that was with regard to outsourcing, but insourcing is another alternative. It's sometimes called inshoring, and it means that the American company hires foreign software engineers, often from India, through what's called the H-1B visa program, brings them to the United States to work at the company's offices as employees, placing them on the payroll. So the H-1B visa is a non-immigrant work visa allowing American US companies, US employers to hire foreign professionals in what's called specialty occupations requiring highly specialized knowledge. And these individuals need to have at least a bachelor's degree. That is, if you cannot find somebody in the US with these qualifications. And American companies love H-1B visas. According to 2025-2026 data, the median annual salary of an American software programmer is $150,000. But if you bring in an insourced H-1B software engineer, you only pay them $100,000. And that same insourced engineer, if you send them back to India, essentially converting that individual into an outsourced engineer, you pay only $26,000. So given these salary ranges, US software companies are incentivized from a purely cost perspective to lay off American workers and replace them with either insourced or outsourced foreign workers. And here are some examples. September 2025, Salesforce lays off 4,000 American workers. At the same time, it insourced 1,100 foreign workers. Amazon, in 2025, they announced 14,000 corporate layoffs. And then at the same time, in 2025, they applied and received approval for 10,000 H-1B visas and an additional 2,300 H-1B visas for the AWS Cloud Division. So for the AWS Cloud Division, it means that these are programmers. Tesla now in 2026 is facing a class action lawsuit that says that Tesla fired 6,000 American workers and replaced them with foreign H-1B visa holders. A technical H-1B visa workers are cheaper. They're less likely to seek a promotion. They're less likely to cause problems, less likely to ask for a raise, less likely to unionize. They can be overworked. They cannot easily leave the company. Thus, they're preferred over American workers. Now, if AI were capable of replacing workers, then companies would replace everybody with AI, and they would replace American workers and H-1B visa workers with AI. But obviously, this is not the case. So again, it's cost reduction that is driving these layoffs and not AI. Let's talk about in-house contractors. Full-time employees are expensive. The employer incurs an additional 30% over the base salary. So if an employee makes $100,000, the employer has to shell out an additional $30,000, Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, insurance, health coverage, depending on the company, legal, administrative costs. All of this can be avoided if you have a staffing solution, which is called temporary workers, which are people who do the exact same duties as a full-time employee, but they're not really considered to be employees of the company. Google, a company valued with a valuation of, I'm rounding it up, almost $4 trillion, 54, over half, 54% of Google's workforce are temporary contractors. It's called the shadow force. Microsoft, $4 trillion valuation, 41% of the workforce is contractors. Meta, 1.7 trillion valuation, 42% of the workforce is temporary workers, contractors. Apple, 3.8 trillion valuation, contractors are almost 40%. This goes on, and this is not something confined to the tech industry. You find these external contractors in the public sector, in municipalities. These individuals sometimes work for many years at these companies and they are called permatemps. These individuals receive lower compensation. If it's a tech company, no equity, reduced benefits. You can fire them without the legal or reputational burden because they're not considered to be employees. You don't have to issue notifications if you're onboarding or releasing contractors. There's these benefits to it. So therefore, the conclusion is that whenever applicable, the tech workers will lay off full-time employees and replace them with contractors. So it's very possible, very feasible, that full-time employees will be laid off, and then silently the company will hire the same people or others as contractors. And this again has nothing to do with AI. Let's talk about the hire and fire cycles. So the practice of hiring and firing workers in the tech industry is something that's been around from the 1990s. Usually the hiring and firing cycles go with either the initiation of massive large-scale layoffs or what's called attrition. Every full-time employee has a contract, and when the contract ends, they just don't renew it. And that's basically it. So these cycles of adding and removing employees, particularly mid-level management or senior individual contributors, is called delayering, flattening, reducing hierarchy, right-sizing, all kinds of things like that. And they've been doing it since the 90s. The motivation, again, is always cost reduction because the individual contributors, especially the senior ones in mid-level management, is expensive. And they also say that it's good in order to encourage autonomy and ownership at the lower levels, reduce bureaucracy, streamline reporting, all kinds of things. Now, the thing is, and this is their position, not mine, the companies claim that senior individual contributors and mid-level managers, it's not just that they're expensive, but these are people who have been with the company for many years. And these people are expecting periodic salary raises or a promotion. And when they don't get that salary raise or promotion, these individuals could be demotivated. And that is why you see testimonials on LinkedIn or on YouTube of somebody said, I'm 55 years old, I've worked with the company for 25 years and I was laid off. I'm not justifying it, but this is the reason. The companies say, I'm going to take somebody 35 years old who's going to work for less and be more motivated. So companies hire mid-level management and individual contributors as they grow, as they scale, and then they need to reduce it. And this is an ongoing cycle. Organizational flattening is kind of a characteristic of the companies, and this is not new and nothing unrelated to AI. Let's talk about quick money. Layoffs make stock prices go up. Investors have repeatedly reacted positively to layoffs, and the stock price went up because the investors think that this has improved efficiency or something like that. So we now have a situation that's very predictable. If you initiate a layoff, the stock price will go up, and executives are incentivized to cut jobs because now, if the stock price goes up, they can raise more capital by issuing more shares. They have a better valuation if they want to be acquired. It's good for investor confidence. It's cosmetic. It makes you look financially stronger without actually doing anything. It's just cosmetics. And the company executives are personally motivated to initiate the layoffs because their personal bonuses, their compensation is tied to the stock option or what's called share-based bonuses. So if the stock price goes up, they become richer. And there's a ton of examples. In 2025, towards 2025, Microsoft laid off 15,000 employees. The stock price went up by 20%. At the end of 2022, Meta, Facebook, laid off 3,600 employees. Stock price went up by 10%. Google implemented the cycles of hundreds of employees being laid off in 2025. And with every cycle, the stock price went up by about 3%. So the conclusion over here is that some layoffs are stock market related, and they're possibly driven either by personal or some kind of a corporate policy to make more money, and this is unrelated to AI. Let's talk about something called the class divide. So this is Michael J. Fox. He's an actor. He played in a movie called The Secret of My Success, which is a 1980s comedy film where he tries to make it in the corporate world. And in one of the scenes in the beginning of the movie, Michael J. Fox is starting to work at the mailroom, and his colleague tells him, never consort with the suits. The suits is the high-level executives who work at the upper floors of the building. And what the colleague is telling this character that Michael J. Fox is playing, that there's a class system of executives and employees, just like there was royalty in their subject, the peasants, in bygone days in Europe. So layoffs is kind of a workforce management tool that is designed to reinforce the divide between decision makers and employees. And Mr. Jack Welch from General Electric, he used the constant threat of job loss as a control mechanism to encourage compliance, discourage dissent, and to signal to the employees that they just need to do what they are told. And again, Mr. Gerner is also expressing the same sentiment, and he did so during his interview. And he said, layoffs is a signaling functions. I'm sorry, layoff is a signaling function that reminds employees that stability is conditional and controlled from above. So some of the layoffs are initiated, and this is kind of a corporate management philosophy, quote unquote, to readjust the workforce's attitude towards the employer. And this has nothing to do with AI. Now, overemployment is kind of obvious. During COVID-19, during the pandemic, companies like Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, Zoom, they expanded their workforce to meet the surge in digital demand. And when that demand subsided post-COVID-19, which is around 2023, these companies found themselves overstaffed and they began to reduce their headcount. So at Meta, they doubled their workforce during the COVID days, and in 2023, they began to progressively cut jobs. Microsoft went from 140,000 to 220,000 workers during COVID, and in 2023, they started reducing staff. Amazon went from 800,000 to 1.6 million employees during the COVID days. And in 2023, they started progressively eliminating thousands of jobs. I can go on with this, but you get the drift. This is the same with Google, and this is the same with Salesforce. But overall, in simple terms, all these companies, you see their logos over here and others, they scaled up during the COVID days. They nearly doubled their workforce in some instances. Then they had to reverse course and cut tens of thousands of jobs. So the remnants and the after effects of overhiring thousands of workers is felt today, years later, with the layoffs progressing towards what they call the right size. And again, this has nothing to do with AI. Now, we do need to concede that some layoffs are tied to AI. Now, business executives are always looking for better ways to improve the business. Business executives do not care about a particular technology. They really don't care about AI. They're only concerned about finances, selling more or acquiring cheaper labor or reducing the labor cost, which is 80% of the cost. Now, one way to reduce the labor cost, if possible, is to replace workers with machines, computers, robots, automation, and AI. And as one executive expressed this, machines are the best employees. They work tirelessly, they don't need handholding, they don't need lunch breaks, they don't need vacations, they don't unionize, they don't ask for a raise, and they don't complain. Having said that, some of the layoffs in 2025 and 2026 were explicitly tied or declared as being tied to AI, replacing the laid off individuals. Snap Corporation in 2026, this year, laid off 1,000 employees, with the CEO and other executives saying that AI is replacing those individuals and AI is going to do the jobs of those being laid off. Atlassian is a large Australian software manufacturer. They make a software called Jira, if you're familiar with it, very popular in software development. They laid off 1,600 employees in 2026 this year, again, claiming that AI is replacing these individuals, reducing the need for roles, and in some cases, just making it easier for the roles to do their job. So throughout 2025, last year, tech companies claimed that AI was the reason for about 180,000 job cuts. And they were saying that AI is the sole justification for these workforce reduction, replacing engineers, operations, customer support, and things like that. Now, what can be verified is what these companies claim publicly. There's no way reliably to check that AI is the true cause of these layoffs. But as we've seen until now, layoffs can occur because of overhiring, failed investments, cheaper labor alternatives, stock performance issues. AI could be a very convenient explanation rather than to say something else. So the core contention, the core argument that I was making is that most likely, most of the tech layoffs are not driven by AI, but by what's called long-standing business practices that are focused primarily on cost reduction and some other things. Now, we could probably say that in most cases, the underlying motivation for the layoff is always, could be almost always mixed, but it's definitely not just AI. So this is a little bonus section that I was asked to include. Let me go over this quickly, and hopefully you will find it of interest. So I mentor product managers, and a product manager that was recently laid off asked me during a session for some guidance, and he asked me these questions. What is the most important career decision I should make? What are employers looking for now? And I was laid off. What are my options? So let me go over this rather quickly. In my mind, the most sorry about that. The most important career management decision is to determine your professional identity. Now, your professional identity kind of describes, it's a statement, a declaration of what profession you're in and what are you specializing in. It explains who you are from a work perspective. What is your work character? So this gentleman over here is Drew Pinsky. He appears a lot on television shows, on podcasts, in interviews, and things like that. If we go to Mr. Pinsky's website, we find that his profession is a doctor. He is a board certified physician, and his specialization is internal and addiction medicine. So this is his professional identity. And a fictitious one, let's say in product management, would be John Smith is a product management professional specializing in B2B SaaS software. This, in my mind, is the most important thing in decision in your career management because this decides your career path. It also is the basis for producing a targeted CV. It determines which companies you will apply to and which not. It opens and closes specific opportunities, and it shapes your professional development plan, how you're going to augment yourself professionally. And your professional identity is something that should last with you for a decade. Now let's go to the other question, which was, what are employers looking for? So for that, we need to understand what is domain expertise and functional expertise. Domain expertise is your experience in a particular industry, in a particular product, in a particular geographic market, technology, whatever it is. It means I know software, hardware, mobile, gaming, web, security, cyber, databases, networking, whatever. It's your experience, work experience in a particular domain, particular area. Functional expertise is the ability to take that domain expertise and by using tools, techniques, processes, and tasks, you take that knowledge that you have about an industry and you create winning products. In reality, employers are looking primarily for domain expertise. They are not looking so much for functional expertise. They're looking for people with specific domain expertise in their relevant industry. And only then they will look for additional skills. So I'll give an example which will explain it. Employers are looking for workers whose professional identity is closely tied to that employer's industry or particular products. They're looking for people who have experience in that business domain. And here's an example. If you have a networking company like Cisco and they're looking to hire a product manager, they will not hire a product manager who worked at Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Cisco is looking for a product manager with domain expertise in the networking industry. And if they don't find it, they will look for somebody with computer networking experience or an electrical engineering background and convert that individual to a product management role with product management training or on-the-job mentorship. Domain expertise is what they're looking for. So now, if I answered the question, I'm laid off, what are my options? Well, here's what I think, and I'm not advocating one in particular, but I think these are the options available. In the short term, you learn and do anything, any viral trend, any tangential trend, mobile, Scrum, Agile, data, cyber, and now AI, learn it, change your CV, take a course, get certified, and try to find a job in that particular, the surge, go with the flow thing. But this is a short-term approach. It's a survival approach that can succeed when you're young, and it will result in intermittently getting odd jobs, and it will be defunct by the age of 35 because it doesn't build that domain expertise, that progressive competence, and it will result in what's called a fractured CV. So the other option is resolute career, long-term. You have your professional identity, you stick to it. You focus on that identity, you specialize in that industry, and you're looking for individual contributor or leadership positions. This is a successful approach as long as the markets are stable or growing, but it risks becoming outdated actually overnight if the market shrinks or disappears, or the particular product or technology you're specializing in becomes outdated, just like, film to video and then streaming, that could be a problem. Another option is my own boss. You specialize in your professional identity in a particular industry, but you're not looking for individual contributor positions. You're looking for contractor position, consulting like, or independent fractional contracting services. This will work under very specific, rather strict conditions where the company believes in that particular profession and your domain expertise. And also, when you bring in high level executive like market and strategic knowledge, they're not looking for delivery of technical knowledge unless this is something very, very, very special and unique. Another option is to pivot. You are, let's say, in product management. You take your transferable skills and you go into project management or program management. Or I've seen some people try to move from product management back to engineering, whatever. Or I'm out. I'm not recommending, but you exit completely to do something else, like blue collar. I know of one guy who became a carpenter, another one who became an electrician. I know one who went to drywall, and one who decided to go into landscaping to become a gardener. I'm not recommending, but that's an option. So we've come to the summary, and we went through a lot today. We talked about the Malden Mills, the social pact, Mr. Gerner, Mr. Walsh, GE, necessary evil, costly ventures, insourcing, outsourcing, contractors, the cycles, the stock market, the class divide, AI, and we went through a little section here about career planning. So if you want to read about product management, pricing, or data, take a look at my books. And if you want to reach me, I don't think we have time for a Q&A, then you can do it either on LinkedIn or through my website. I want to thank Mr. Jim Gindel for inviting me over to deliver this presentation. And I want to thank all of you for listening in. I hope this kind of short recap, we didn't have a lot of time, gave you some new insights and a better understanding of what's happening in the job market and what I consider to be the major causes of the overwhelming layoffs that are taking place. So until we meet again, it's thank you and goodbye. And I will stay here for another couple of minutes if anybody wishes to talk.
Hey, Gabriel, thank you so much. I hope I'm audible too. That was a great, insightful conversation. As a disclaimer, I thought I was recording all the way, and for some reason, I think Zoom is lately glitched, so the lion's share of the recording was there.
Okay.
But anyway, folks, thank you very much for joining. Gabriel, so you said you will be willing to take a few questions.
I'm here if anybody wants. It's not a problem. I'm
Yeah,
happy to answer any questions.
I think it's very insightful and blunt and candid. So I have actually a question of my own. Folks, anyone wants to speak up?
No, it looks like they know everything.
You don't have
So
to, raise your hand. Just unmute. We don't have that many people right now in the queue.
Yes, Gabriel, this is Dinesh. You can hear me. Am I audible?
yes, you are. Thank you. I
Yes,
can
yes,
hear you.
thank you. Today is my last day at Cognizant Technology Solutions. For 19 years, I've served them. But as you very rightly pointed out, I was really thinking it was supposed to do with loyalty, but that's not something what they look at. But your pointer is right. They are also hiring a lot of people in India as well. So if you see, they are getting rid of mostly the middle management across the board, and that's what they are trying to do. So I was quite happy to hear the insight. So this has got really nothing to do with AI. They're just piggybacking on AI is what I see.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I also think that there's another trend,
Yes,
and
go on.
they're blaming it on AI. The thing is
Hmm.
that now, again, the motivation, if we take a look at it from a cost reduction perspective, then what they're going to try to do, and they're still trying to do, and I can talk a little bit about the product builder or product engineer trend that's happening in product management. They're taking individuals and they're saying with AI, you can do the work of two other or three other peers who are just like you. And it's progressing to the fact that, or the scenario where they want you not only to do similar jobs, but jobs of other individuals, like product management. You're not going to do the job of three product managers. You're going to do the job of two product managers, two engineers, and a UX designer, and all of this with AI. Now, AI is a bubble, and this is not going to work. And I've written a lot about it, why it's not going to work, and it doesn't matter now. But they're going through this phase, so I don't know how long it's going to take the employers to become disillusioned with this AI vision that everybody in front of a computer screen is going to be replaced, and those left are going to be these super multitasker, multi-capable, multidisciplinary individuals. Now, one more thing I'd like to add, just not to dominate, I want other people to ask questions. This is not confined to tech. If you go online, you can see this in accounting. You can see this also in the legal profession. You no longer have these paralegals and a financial advisor. They want one lawyer to do everything or one accountant to do everything without the bookkeepers or things like that. So it's not going to work, but it needs to go through the cycle. And as long as we're still going through those remnants of the COVID-19 overhiring and other issues, it's going to continue until it plateaus, it bottoms out, and then it's going to go up. Now, one more thing, I think the problem with AI is unlike mobile and cyber and social media and internet and .com and all those other kind of revolutions in the tech world, all of those in the past created new jobs. AI has a vision of replacing jobs, of cutting jobs, not creating new opportunities and new jobs. And not only that, the vendors, Anthropic and OpenAI and whoever it is, they're asking investors for billions of dollars, and also the US government, because they're saying it's a matter of national security against China and Russia, to help them fulfill this vision of developing AI to cut jobs. So it's not going to work in the long run, but in the meantime, we just got to wait it out. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Folks, anyone else?
Hi.
Anybody?
Yeah, hi. My name is Lavetta Stevenson. I just want to say, I didn't, this was just amazing. It was amazing to hear the perspective of what's going on. There's so much out there, and it's like we don't know really, well, let me speak for myself. We don't know really who to believe. But one thing, my area of expertise is portfolio program and project management. And to say that somehow AI can replace that functionality when you're talking about judgment, one of the things is navigating through political chaos and all of those things that it takes a cognitive brain to do. I don't know. Do you have any insight on those type of jobs in terms of the effect of AI, or would you recommend any one source that sticks out in your mind?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you're asking about the jobs that are safest from the AI thing, right?
I guess we could use the term safe. Yeah, won't be as impactful, at least for the first 3 or 4 years.
There's nothing like that that I know of that. Okay, there's the reality and what they think. They believe that almost everything can be automated and replaced
Right.
with AI.
Right.
But I think that there's a couple of things. Anything that needs interaction and deliberation and reason and deductive reasoning, it can only be done by humans. That is project management, product management, program, mid-level management up to executives. I cannot see a backward-looking AI bot innovating anything, because innovation means coming up with something new. And AI is backward looking. It only looks for something on the internet. And also it hallucinates and whatever.
A lot.
So the thing is that anything that requires thinking, deliberation, accountability,
Mhm.
forward-looking thoughts, innovations, strategy, AI can give you options, and
Mhm.
it's really good. It's a productivity tool, and it can also automate things. I use it, but it cannot replace me. It could not build this presentation. It could not do the things that I do with other things. And if it would write a book, then it would just copy things from the internet
Mm.
and mix match them and change some words. So AI is just a tool. From my perspective, it's like Excel. It's a
Yeah,
great tool,
right.
but it cannot replace. But unfortunately, you saw in the presentation how deep is the motivation to endlessly enrich the CEOs
Mm-hmm.
and the owners
Yes.
with no regard to the community, the nation, whatever it is. So uh, I don't think it will change, but we're going back to the necessary evil. We are a necessary enabler that they cannot get rid of. At the moment, they're trying to get rid of all the employees, but it's
Right.
not going to work.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Gabriel, I want to be mindful of your time. Do you have? I'm selfishly wanting to ask you one question, but let's just say if others, mine is very provocative, so I'm gonna leave it until everyone
Somebody
else
wrote
is.
that I was blunt. I thought I was truthful.
Yeah, you were
I was
there. Yeah,
I was
We need
blunt.
that. We need truth. There's
yeah.
so many people
Yes.
dancing around the issues and pretending. We need facts and truth based on what we know today.
Well, I thought I was
It was
truthful. I was
absolutely.
blunt, but
Let me
okay.
ask
Apologies.
let me ask you a
All
question,
right.
Gabriel. I'm going to veto because I had some people actually asking me this question, so I'm kind of syndicating what I've heard from a few people. So assume that things won't change for better as far as hiring in the nearby future. And I agree with you, the lingering effect of the COVID-19 overhiring, um, people that would be working for pennies because they can be remotely sourced from all over the globe. I think that's the main reason, not AI per se, but AI does, advocate we will replace people. So hypothetically speaking, let's just say 5 years from now, one way or the other, the workforce has been dramatically misplaced by AI. Like now, when people become unemployed, they will be looking for unemployment. They will be looking for ways to sustain their lifestyle. So at some point, it will be like there's a puristic claim as AI takes over and bots take over humans' jobs.
Yeah.
Humans can just do nothing and collect the benefits of this. Not true at all. As I can't see. So you have 5 million people hypothetically, and two
Okay.
million people lost jobs for AI. What happens? Who pays their bill? And how do you? Let me finish my question. How do you prevent, or how do you foresee the developments, societal developments that may lead potentially to a social unrest because people do not make money?
Yeah, there's somebody, Malcolm over here says that we're getting into politics a little bit. This is government intervention. This is something that it's not a tech question, and I'd rather not go into politics and administrations in the US. They change frequently, and they diametrically opposed in their policies. But this is about the government intervening or creating an environment that has to maintain the social fabric. I'm not going to go into that, but let me add something a little bit over here. I'm happy also to go into politics, but not
This is
in
actually
this.
not a political
No,
question. It's
no, no. I'm not going
it's
to go into
academic.
this. I'm not going to go into this in this forum.
Sure.
But I want to say something like this. AI is essentially a very clever autocomplete function. It is a very smart autocomplete. It knows how to take things and pull them together. And sometimes it gets it right, and sometimes it collects things and joins them, and then you get, well, those hallucinations. The thing is that there are some things that AI can do at the moment, and it's probably going to get better, that is replacing certain roles or certain types of roles. Let me explain. There's a lady who appeared on a YouTube video, and she has a degree in translation from English to Chinese, Mandarin and traditional and all this and that. She cannot get a job for the last 3 years after being very, very in demand. There's no need for translators, proofreaders, anything that has to do with language manipulation, book editors, these kind of things. I used to work with a lady in Britain, in England, and she used to take my articles and my books and proofread them and make corrections. I now have Grammarly, and I don't need her anymore. And I can also ask some chatbot, AI chatbot, to reflow and restyle and whatever, and it does it very well. So there are certain types of jobs that are not immune from the AI. Also, low-level scripting and programming. If you don't know PowerShell, it doesn't matter anymore. Just go and say, I want a PowerShell script that does this and that, and it's done. And if it makes an error, you just plug in, you tell them this is the error, and it fixes it, and that's it. So there are things that are going to disappear, like the low-end freelance market for scripting and program development, PHP, or I don't know, jQuery and these kind of things, or Visual Basic. But the thing is that there are a lot of other jobs which I mentioned previously. I don't want to repeat myself, especially ones that call for thoughts, resolution, interaction with other humans, interviewing, and so forth, that are, in my opinion, going to remain forever. Now, I want to share with you another thing about AI. It's been a situation that they've now fired a lot of HR people and human resources and recruiters, and you have AI interviewing people. So here's the crazy part. You have these called applicant tracking systems that you send your CV in a mail or Word, and it rates you. There's no human involved. But now you have these software for the client side that prepare your CV so it will score higher with the ATS, with the applicant tracking system. So you have AI writing your CV and AI reading your CV for the employer. Now it goes even more than that. I read a testimonial, a post by somebody who said that he was interviewed by an AI chatbot on WhatsApp, that he was asked questions and the AI was recording the session and watching his face and maybe looking at his gestures, if he was going like this or making faces or whatever, and was scoring him. So there was no human involved in that. And I've also read, and I haven't heard of anybody undergoing this, that you're now interviewed in a Zoom session by an AI that asks you a question. Tell me about the best thing you ever did. How do you handle conflict? Tell me about the time your boss asked you to stay late. And the AI records it and grades it and whatever. So the AI thing is taking over HR, and I don't think it's going to work. But at least they're trying it for the time being. So we can see AI kind of going into all kinds of directions everywhere. Slava?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, Gabriel, thank you for the presentation. So my question is purely hypothetical. Sorry, let me get in front of camera. Yeah, but my question is purely hypothetical. Let's say AI replaces workforce. Let's say that. How's the economy going to work? Who's going to be purchasing the product that AI is going to produce?
Nobody. That's the whole thing. It's going to collapse. It's a model that cannot sustain itself. The whole idea is that you need, and I'm going to be truthful because I don't care anymore. An economy has to be, in order to be successful, you need to have a lot of middle class, like you had in the 1950s and 60s in the US, and a little bit of poor people and a little bit of rich people. If anybody knows economics, I actually studied economics. You have what's called a Nielsen curve, and it has to be like a bell curve, a little bit of rich, a little bit of poor, and a lot of middle class. And during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s in the US, this was called the golden age of capitalism, where you had a ton of people, millions of people who were middle class, and you had one provider who was usually the man, and woman was the homemaker, and he was the breadwinner. And with one salary, you could buy a house and a car and a boat and go on vacations and everything. Now, I don't want to go into a long lecture about here. What we've seen is that we are heading towards Mexico everywhere, not just in the US. Mexico has 2% of the population holding something like 90% of the wealth. So the divide is growing. And Slava, I'm getting to the answer. The divide is growing, and you have a lot of poor people and a lot of rich, and very few rich people that control the majority of the capital. And when you have that imbalance, there's nobody to buy whatever you're trying to sell, no matter how you reduce the costs. So this is why we need government intervention. Now, governments are like lawyers and executives. They either make problems or fix problems. So the whole idea is that we need some kind of a policy to be enacted by a government, not just the US, to fix it. But I don't know if governments and politicians know what to do, and they have this from French, laissez-faire. Leave them to do, let the market forces, the invisible hand, handle everything. But it's not working at the moment. Now, one thing about America I would like to share. America was never about equality. So it's not like France where you have equality and that's the motto over there. Now, I'm not passing judgment, by the way, but I'm saying it's not about equality. So that's why you have poor people and homeless and a trillionaire. I'm not casting any judgment. But the thing is that that's the reality. And if we're going to open up the divide, the Nielsen curve is going to become flat with no middle class. There's nobody there to buy the goods. So AI is just, who cares if you have AI? I don't have the money to buy anything, not even a car.
So great. So we are definitely past the hour, and I want to be mindful of your time, Gabriel. So I want to thank you. By the way, it's funny, you answered Slava's question, which is very thoughtful, but that was my question, and you went into tangentially into the economic aspect of this, which is very appreciated. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. You answered my question.
Okay.
Nevertheless, I do want to thank you for coming out of this hour, and I do want to thank you for giving this very insightful talk. The bulk of the presentation is recorded, hopefully, and will be available. I want to thank everyone for joining, and hopefully, as we part, you will all have a great weekend. And please reach out to Gabriel directly if you have any specific questions. He's a wealth of knowledge, as you can see, and some of his insights, some of his perspective could be very valuable. Okay.
So, what's this, Malcolm? I know somebody who lives in the Hamptons, by the way. It's not as good as they claim it to be. But in any case, all jokes aside, is there anybody I'm willing to provide you with my time because it's going to be a summer vacation soon. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. And if you need to go, you can always reach me or email me, and I'm happy to have any discussion that you wish. Is there any questions at this juncture? Anybody? Going once? Going twice.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you, Gabriel.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you so
I'll,
much.
I'll
Thank
share
you.
information with everyone as it becomes available on the.
I'm going to stay here. Can you leave the session on for another minute or so? I want to
I
read the
believe
comments.
so. Yeah, I think people will decide what they want to do, but I see them dropping. But the session is on.
Yeah, okay. Malcolm, I see you, Malcolm.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah.
Okay, one second.
No, how are you?
I'm fine.
Can I give you
No,
one?
okay.